Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about crafting, specifically about the number one thing that I would do to make crafting better, or more enjoyable, or better for the game, etc. Was initially going to do like a 3 point presentation here on three things that I would do, but my second point I didn't really have a solution to, and the third point, when I thought about it more, I didn't think was a very good point. So I'm just going to focus on the main point, and the main point will kind of incorporate the third point that I did have prior. So the number one thing that I think would make professions better, and let's even before I get into it, let's say, as far as the crafting order system, not just the crafting but the craft order system, Blizzard has come out since the day when I said that I was going to do a video about this. They've come out and said that they realize there's imperfections. They're making some changes to it already. They're going to try to keep making changes to make it a better system and stuff like that. So like they realize it's not perfect already. It is pretty good though. Like this is not a video to complain about it. I'm enjoying it. A lot of people played the game for longer than they would normally because of the system. A lot of people are still playing the game because of the system, whereas they might already be taking a break. People who play at the beginning of patches and stuff like that. So it's already a good system, but it could just be better. And I think in some ways it's like an easy fix, or maybe the actual implementation isn't easy, but like the idea is easy. So like one thing they're going to do is up here you can see 20 orders remaining. They're going to lower that to 4, so that way you don't have like one person, like there's not, there's sometimes there's like I'm sitting here, none are popping up, right? That's obviously not ideal. First of all, I think that's another solution that they need to figure out, is how to make crafting orders more uh, wanted to do, because right now the best way to do crafting orders is to find a really good crafter and talk to them personally, which is great, by the way. But it makes this thing kind of obsolete because there's less use for it. And this is on, I am on Alliance, but this is like a very populated server. So they're lowering this orders remaining to 4, so that way one person can't do 20 for the day, and 5, if there, let's say there were only 100 orders that came through a server on a day, 5 people could technically fill all of those. So you're lowering the number to try to give more people opportunities, but I think the real solution there is to get more people to place orders, and that's where I didn't really have a solution per se, is how to get more people to place orders. But that's something that I'm sure that at least I hope that they're working on. I think it probably ends up being something along the lines of having more useful things to craft in a way. But yeah, that we can. My point will get into that as well. So they are talking about that already. So the thing that I want them to change is essentially that. So like let's go to this. So if I craft this, I would craft this at 392 without any end game reagents. So that's the primal infusion or the concentrated primal infusion, which I don't even have any of right now. And that's to get it to 405 or up to 418. So right now, any casual crafter, if you're a casual player whose end game is crafting, which is what this crafting thing was sold as, it's a alternate end game path. Your max item level is 392 if you don't do any end game content. So your max item level is 392, and that's kind of fine, except for again, it was sold that it would be a end game path for you, and right now I would say that it's not. So 392 is the max. If you just do open world stuff, so that means you do no mythic zeros or anything like that. If you just do open world, 379 is like a very common item level. Like if you have an alt or something, or even on your main, and all you do is like world quests and stuff, it's very likely that your character is somewhere around 379. Maybe you're 380, whatever. But that's a very common eye level to be at. And so this is 13 item levels higher than that, which makes sense. So if you counted open world as like LFR or a normal dungeon or something like that, the next step up would be normal. And this would kind of be like normal mode. It's 392. The primal infusion is heroic, and then the concentrated primal infusion is mythic. The problem is you actually have to do the endgame content to get the primal infusions outside of a few other sources, and to get the concentrated primal infusions you have to do really hard endgame content. Now, by no means am I saying that a crafter should just have instant concentrated primal infusions and instant 418 gear, but I am saying that there needs to be some sort of solution to come up with where by crafting hopefully, that would be the best place for the solution. By doing something with crafting, you are able to obtain these, maybe by getting tickets or some sort of currency that you can exchange to the Artisans Consortium because you crafted so many things at a high, and maybe at rank 5 or something like that. Maybe when you proc something into a rank 5. Maybe when you proc someone else's concentrated primal infusion to a rank 5, you get the currency to buy those or something like that, right? I'm not the best at making up the solutions here, but I'm just trying to figure out a way to get the people who are playing the game for crafting to stick around longer, essentially, right? Have something really for them to work for, because this is kind of sold as this is an end game for casual players or for crafters. And I really don't see that being a viable path. Like, if I was only, like, on my alts, I very rarely do end game stuff on my alts. And so, my end game on my alts through crafting would just be 392, and it wouldn't be any higher because I wouldn't have any of these reagents. Now, eventually I would have some primal infusions. I'd have a few pieces of 405, and that'd be great, I guess. But that's like not really what I'm looking for. That's not what I was sold on. I was sold on that I would have a path to endgame. Now, like I said, I think generally in the WoW community, it's kind of understood or accepted or whatever that, like, if you are not doing the highest content, that you will not have like a plethora of the highest gear. However, I do think it's fine if some of that existed. Now, when Titan Forging was a thing, it obviously existed in bunches, really, because you could just keep doing world quests until something Titan forged and getting like the gear that way. And I think there was some healthy parts of that, and you'll see a lot of casual players who like the Titan Forging system. The problem with the Titan Forging system is that it was all RNG. What I'm talking about here is a deterministic way to work towards the gear for the crafter. So this would not be an RNG way. It wouldn't be like I procced the rank 5 and now I have a 1 in 100 chance to get this currency. It'd be I procced the rank 5 on a 418 item, and now I get X amount of that currency to then purchase, one of these items myself, right? And so, since it's deterministic, it wouldn't be frowned upon as much by the community because everyone would work towards the same thing. It's also not like something Titan Forging also exceeded item levels, so it would actually be an upgrade. So it was like better to keep playing the slot machine than even technically it's better to continue if you had endless time to play. It was better to continually play the slot machine than it was to actually work for your gear. And so that's why Titan Forging was frowned upon by a large portion of the community, frankly. So if there was a deterministic way to continue to work on your gear, and let's say, because of time, because of the way the currency works, realistically, you could only have like 2 or 3 418s as a casual player. I think the casual player would be stoked about that. I know I would. If I were a casual player and I had like a weapon that was 418, I had like a ring or something that, or like it would probably be the stuff that has embellishments on it, right? So for me, it would be like have my weapon and have my belt, my Frostfire belt or whatever at 418 as a casual player. I'd be pretty stoked about that, to have 2 really powerful items with embellishments on them and have them at 418. And I never stepped foot into a mythic raid, and I didn't do any high mythic pluses whatsoever. I'd be pretty stoked about that, even having a couple of them. But right now, it's hard to even get the 405s, let alone the 418s. So, overall, I think that's something that Blizzard should look at, is making, crafting kind of what they sold it as, that it was going to be an end game for crafters. So allow crafters to obtain these currencies needed, these, infusions, as we will, primal confusion and concentrated primal infusions, have them a deterministic way to obtain these via crafting, and via crafting really hard things. And then, especially for the 418s, like, it should be hard to get those by crafting, but you should have a way to do it. And I think, honestly, with the primal infusions, those shouldn't be nearly as hard to get, because those are really easy to get. For anyone who's even like a moderate endgame player, you're just like, you could just fall over with how many primal infusions you can obtain. So those should be a lot easier to get. And so, like, it should be reasonable for any hardcore crafter who's maxed out their skill, who has good tools and everything like that. It should be reasonable for them to make themselves a set of 405 gear, in my opinion. And maybe that'll take them a few months or whatever, but I think that's that's perfectly fine, and that'd be a very viable thing. And then of course, like I said, have a over time have a way to get concentrated primal infusions, and maybe have 2 or 3 pieces of those to go with their 405. Maybe their item level goes up to like 406 or 407, and they're just like an elite crafter. Achievement for wearing a full crafting set. Have cool things like that and make crafting an actual end game, and that would in essence allow every player to have an opportunity to do end game WoW stuff. And like this is a real end game, right? So like there's not this huge thing. Oh, you're 392, you plebeian. You didn't even do heroic raid. You didn't even do some mythic pluses. You're only in 392. And just kind of eliminate that gap. And there'll still be the gap between the plus 20 mythic plusers and the mythic raiders, and then those people, there'll still be a little gap there, which I think is fair. That content's actually really hard, and it's fair that drops better gear. But the reality is, hardcore crafting and many heroic bosses. The last boss on heroic's always pretty hard, but many heroic bosses, especially earlier ones, there's not that much difference in actual difficulty there, as far as the actual fights go. So, I would just love to see that. I would love to see this become an actual end game. It's something I would totally engage in on my alts, so I don't normally do end game on, and it's something that I know the casual players that I know in my life would really appreciate if they had something to keep working for. Because when it comes to just crafting, I know people who did their crafting, got their crafting up all the way, and then they're like, well, I guess I have to do Mythic Plus now, but they might not really want to do Mythic Plus, and so I think that they would stay with the game longer if they could just keep doing the crafting, because the crafting system is really, really good. Especially not even talking about the order system, but the actual crafting system is excellent. I love the tools. I love everything. I love the recrafting. I love almost everything about it. Not everything, but almost everything about the crafting system I like. And, a lot of people would play the game just because of this. Or continue to play the game because of this, I should say. So, definitely look into that, hopefully Blizzard. And, we'll see. We'll see if they plan on any kind of changes on that going forward. I know it's probably not likely based on things that I've seen Ian say before. But, come on. Crafters deserve at least 405 gear if they work really, really hard for it. That's what I say. Let them have it. Maybe it takes more time, whatever. But allow it to happen deterministically over time. And yeah, so that's all I have to say about this one, guys. I don't know if everyone will agree with me or not, but I'm very pro casual player despite being like a high end player myself. I'm very in favor of casual players and just getting more people to enjoy the game longer. Mostly because most people I know in life are casual players or were casual players, etc. So that's why I kind of like to stick up for them a little bit. So that's it for this one, guys. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel just because it helps me out so much. And other than that, everybody have a good one.